My friend, allow me to pose a question. How many evenings have you laid awake watching the ceiling, your thoughts racing with limitless outcomes, worries, and uncertainties? How many moments have you replayed dialogues in your mind that never occurred, envisioned crises that never arrived, and borne weights that were never yours to bear? You wonder, you stress, you analyze and reanalyze. And still, in all your analyzing, nothing is altered. The pressure only becomes heavier, the thoughts more unsettled, the spirit more anxious. And still, at this exact moment, God is gently saying to you, stop overanalyzing. I am already managing it. We live in a chaotic age, an era surrounded by clamor, disorder, and boundless decisions. People are trapped in the snare of what if and what now, engulfed by dissecting every aspect of their situations. But God has not summoned you to a journey of stress. God has not placed you in this life so that your thinking becomes your confinement. God has called you to abide in trust, to move in belief, to let go of the load you were never built to hold. Overanalyzing is merely a quiet burglar that strips you of serenity and drains the happiness of the current moment. It persuades you that you must control it all, when in truth the one who formed the galaxies already governs everything. Reflect on this. The same God who positioned the stars in the heavens, who fixed the sun in orbit, who instructs the seas where to cease and the breezes where to drift, this very God is watching over you. Do you imagine for a second that your situation is too messy for Him? Do you assume your issues are too complex for Him to untangle? Do you trust your destiny is too shaky for Him to safeguard? My friend, the issue is not that God is gone. The issue is that you've permitted your thoughts to outrun your belief. You've let overanalyzing silence the calm, unwavering voice of God. Overanalyzing suggests that you must coordinate every element, dictate every result, and anticipate every scenario. But belief asserts that God already understands the outcome from the start. Overanalyzing claims that you are a single error away from collapse. But belief affirms that God cradles your existence in His grasp. Overanalyzing persuades you that you must shoulder the entire burden solo. But belief reassures you that God vowed to lift your weights if you'll just release them. Why do we find it hard to surrender? Why do we persist in holding the exact things that wear us down? Because we dread releasing control. We dread the unfamiliar. We dread what lies beyond our grasp. But heed this: you cannot govern the future. You cannot amend the past. You only possess this very second. And in this second, God is already resolving what disturbs your sleep. You do not need to decode how it will all unfold. You do not need to dissect every consequence. God already holds a blueprint, and His design exceeds all you could fathom. Some of you are anxious about your money. You rerun the calculations repeatedly in your thoughts, dissecting each invoice, each cost, each scenario. Yet God is the sustainer. God possesses the herds on countless hills. He holds provisions beyond your vision, and He is already intervening in ways beyond your comprehension. Why burden yourself with endless reasoning when the one who fashioned abundance itself is already acting on your behalf? Some of you feel anxious about connections. You dissect every phrase exchanged, every pause, every movement. You speculate about how others perceive you. You rerun dialogues and picture outcomes that may never unfold. And through it all, you steal away your own tranquility. God understands the souls of people. God discerns who is meant to stay in your journey and who is not. God knows how to restore what's fractured and how to eliminate what's harmful. Why exhaust your strength with relentless mental warfare when the one who authored your story already knows its resolution? Some of you are plagued by anxiety about what's ahead. You remain awake during the night whispering, What if this goes wrong? What if I fall short? What if it all unravels? But dear friend, what if God shows up? What if what you fear most never even comes to pass? What if God has already resolved it in a manner beyond your sight? Overanalyzing doesn't transform what's to come. It only ruins what is. God has already stepped into your tomorrow. He's already there, aligning events, shifting hindrances, unlocking paths, and clearing the way. Are you aware that most of your worries never even occur? The mind exaggerates shadows into barriers, murmurs into chaos. You expend valuable strength analyzing incidents that never transpire. But God, in His boundless insight, defends you from clashes you'll never witness. He shields you from threats that never approach. He delivers resolutions before you even notice a concern. If God is already overseeing it, why do you keep rehashing it in your mind as though the outcome hinges on you? The reality is, overanalyzing reveals we lean on our reasoning more than we lean on God. It shows we've placed our intellect above His assurances. But your reasoning is finite. Your comprehension is incomplete. God's insight is endless. His awareness is perfect. He views the start and the conclusion while you only catch a glimpse of the whole. So stop agonizing over what you cannot grasp. Stop looping through those same uncertainties and questions. Stop surrendering influence to your unsettled thinking. Anchor your faith where it truly belongs, in God alone. When you cease overanalyzing and begin believing, something shifts within. The weight lifts, the noise stills, the soul settles. Suddenly it becomes clear that you don't need to solve every part because God already holds every answer. You don't need to see how it all unites because God already sees the full design. You don't need to wear yourself thin with limitless possibilities because God is already acting in your favor. There's a reason God urges you to lay your burdens at His feet. There's a reason He called you to have faith instead of fretting. Because anxiety accomplishes nothing but damage, but belief restores you. Worry depletes you, but faith empowers you. Worry clouds your view of today's gifts, but trust allows you to witness the blessings already in bloom. Some of you need to loosen the hold of your own overthinking now. You're clutching so firmly to what's out of your grasp that there's no space for the grace God wants to deliver into your life. Overanalyzing has bound you, but God desires to liberate you. Let it go. Release it. Stop replaying the issue and begin recalling the promise. God is managing it. He always has been. He always will be. Consider the countless occasions in your history when it felt like everything was collapsing, only to reflect later and realize God was aligning it perfectly. Reflect on the instances when you believed the door had shut completely, only to discover God was guiding you towards something greater. Think of the situations where the delay seemed like a catastrophe, but later proved to be divine intervention. If He has done it once, why assume He won't do it again? Overanalyzing is the voice of fear. Belief is the voice of trust. Which will you embrace? Will you keep living confined by your anxious thinking? Or will you step into the liberty of knowing God is already moving? Each time your thoughts begin to spiral, pause and remind your soul, this burden is not mine to carry, God is in charge. Each time fear murmurs, what if? Respond with faith. Even if God remains in control, my friend, stop draining your energy on what you can't influence. Quit attempting to unravel what only God can fully perceive. Stop envisioning scenarios in your head that will never unfold. God is already present. God is already in control. God is already orchestrating things far beyond your insight. All He asks is that you trust Him enough to quit overanalyzing and allow Him to be God. Let your soul breathe. Let your inner world be calm. The same God who paints the sky each morning, who sends rain in its timing, who upholds all creation. This very God is watching over you. He has not overlooked you. He has not forsaken you. He is already acting on your behalf. You do not need to overanalyze when your hope is anchored in the one who understands all. So tonight, as you lay your head down, hush the chaos of your thoughts. Tell yourself, God is taking care of this. When tomorrow arrives and your mind races ahead, gently remind it, God has already prepared the way. When fear begins to sneak in, speak truth to your spirit. God holds control. And when uncertainty builds, take your stand in certainty. God is mightier than my logic, stronger than my anxiety, and higher than my doubts. You were not meant to dwell in torment. You were not made to be paralyzed by fear. You were crafted to believe, to have confidence, to live in divine peace. God is already working. All He desires is that you release the overanalyzing and start depending on Him. My friend, please ponder this. Every time you choose to overthink, you are acting as if the weight of all existence belongs on your shoulders, as though your mind could handle what only God is able to bear. You replay every conceivable ending. You spin in loops within your imagination. You stir up chaos in your thoughts. But what actually shifts? Nothing. The storm only intensifies within. Yet the moment you yield, the moment you whisper from deep within, God, I place this in your hands, the burden begins to ease. Overthinking pressures you to operate as though you are God. But true faith reminds you that you never were. Only God holds the authority, the understanding, and the command over what the future contains. You don't have to decipher every detail, because the one who shaped the heavens and the earth already knows. Allow me to remind you of a powerful truth. God never instructs you to bear the burdens of tomorrow today. He supplies exactly what you need for right now. The birds do not store supplies for future years, yet they are nourished each and every morning. The wildflowers of the land do not toil or stress, yet they are dressed in splendor. And if God tends to the tiniest living things, how much more will He look after you? Your worried thoughts do not enhance His provision, nor do they hurry His schedule. Overanalyzing does not bring tomorrow any closer. It simply blinds you from appreciating today's blessing. God's design is moving forward in perfect sequence, and no amount of mental anxiety will rush or delay it. Do you understand why overthinking is so harmful? Because it places your security in your own restricted insight instead of in God's infinite wisdom. You believe that if you examine enough, strategize enough, stress enough, you'll somehow find the secret key. But what often goes unnoticed is that the key was never intended for you to hold. That key is God's alone. He unlocks doors no one can close, and He shuts doors no one else can open. He organizes details in ways far beyond your expectations. He sends the right individuals at the right occasion and removes the wrong ones at the perfect moment. Overanalyzing insists you must solve the mystery. But trust reminds you that God already holds the finished design. Some of you are moving through life with such overwhelming mental chatter that you can't even notice God's quiet direction. Your mind is so loud, so persistent, that His whisper gets lost. God does not compete with noise. He speaks in quiet, but you must still the tempest in your thoughts to truly listen. Overanalyzing disrupts the stream of peace, because peace is born from surrender. If you truly trust that God is taking care of things, then stillness must follow. That stillness is not emptiness. It is filled with assurance that the one who carved out the mountains and shaped the oceans is working out every facet of your story. Reflect on the depth of that phrase. God is already taking care of it, not tomorrow, not in a distant season, not after you solve the mystery. Right now, even in this very instant, He is coordinating situations you are unaware of. He is acting in spaces beyond your senses. He is turning hearts, positioning doors, designing outcomes. Just because your eyes don't see it doesn't mean He's idle. A seed buried in soil is unseen, yet it's alive, expanding, and pushing through the earth in its moment. So too is God's intention for your life. You may not detect progress. You may not witness signs, but underneath it all, God is already on the move. Overanalyzing digs up the seed repeatedly, searching for signs, while belief lets it stay grounded, knowing growth is already on the way. Another trap of overthinking is that it drains the strength meant for what God has genuinely called you to fulfill. Instead of living with vision and direction, your thoughts become filled with what-ifs and never-ending analysis. You freeze, unable to advance, because you're tangled in evaluating every scenario. But God never summoned you to stagnation. God called you to walk by faith, to take action even when the full direction is unseen. Overanalyzing demands the complete blueprint. Faith replies, I will move forward because I trust God is already there ahead of me. There are some among you right now standing at a crossroad of decisions, hesitating, second-guessing, reviewing every possible scenario until you're drained and overwhelmed. But receive this truth. Insight does not stem from analyzing. Insight flows from trusting. You may not know where the path will twist, but you know who owns the road. You may not understand how the fragments will connect, but you know who crafted the plan. Stop torturing yourself with every single variable. God isn't requiring you to grasp every curve. He's inviting you to step forward with assurance that He's already paved the way. My friend, allow me to speak plainly. Overanalyzing is simply a quiet form of disbelief. It may appear like wisdom, but deep down it is rooted in fear. And fear cannot thrive alongside faith. You cannot submit to both anxiety and trust. You have to decide, which voice will you follow? The loud panic of your thoughts or the calm certainty of God? Which authority will you serve? The agony of your racing thoughts or the tranquility of the Most High? Every time you choose trust over overthinking, you are boldly proclaiming, God, I believe in you more than I believe my fear. Maybe you have prayed continuously, yet nothing has shifted. You begin to question if God has overlooked you. Your thoughts spin trying to understand the reason for the waiting, the silence, the resistance. But God's schedule is never delayed. His silence is not neglect. His waiting is never rejection. Sometimes God is equipping you before releasing the answer. Sometimes He is shielding you from what you don't yet perceive. Sometimes He is lining up the perfect timing, the right connection, the divine opening. Overanalyzing will only intensify the waiting, but faith will give that waiting deeper meaning. God is already moving in the unseen. He does not need your overthinking to accelerate His purpose. What He desires is your steady faith to keep you anchored. Freedom is within reach if you would only loosen your grip. You are not built to bear the burden of endless mental analysis. You are not formed to exist in the agony of racing thoughts. God did not shape you to be trapped by dread. He formed you to rely on Him. He formed you to dwell in peace. He formed you to rise daily with boldness, knowing He is managing every detail that affects your life. When you abandon overanalyzing, you begin to truly live. When you let go of overthinking, you make space for joy. When you release overanalyzing, you discover the courage to progress. So I urge you today, not someday, not later this week today, let it go. That situation you constantly rehearse in your head, release it. That choice you've dissected until you're frozen, hand it to Him. That dread of the unpredictable that keeps you restless at night, surrender it fully. Whisper with belief, God, I entrust this to you. I will no longer torment myself over what is beyond me. I refuse to live in bondage to my thoughts. I will rest in the certainty that you are already in control. My friend, your thoughts may attempt to rebel. They may pull you back into the endless loop of anxiety and mental noise. But stand strong. Remind yourself over and over again, God is mightier than my thinking. God is mightier than my worry. God is mightier than my overanalyzing. Every time your mind begins to drift, anchor it in this unshakable truth. God is already taking care of everything for me. And when you start to dwell in that awareness, you'll experience a freedom you've never encountered before. You'll move with more ease. You'll laugh more fully. You'll rest more deeply. You'll realize that the calm you've been yearning for never existed in controlling every result or solving every situation. The peace your soul craves is discovered in fully trusting God. Let me speak directly to your heart. Overanalyzing is not just tiring, it's deceptive. It persuades you that your thoughts hold the key when in fact they are the very chain keeping you stuck. Overthinking is a false image of control. It tells you that by spinning a situation repeatedly in your mind, you are achieving something useful. But here's the truth. Your thoughts aren't the remedy. God is. God is the one who designed the master plan of your existence, the one who knew you before your first heartbeat, the one who penned every word of your journey. You may believe you are creating safety by examining every angle, but true safety is discovered only by placing your trust in God. Picture the sea for a moment. The tides never stop shifting. They crash, they howl, they rush in and roll away. If you fixate on the surface of the sea, all you'll witness is disorder and movement. But beneath those waves in the core of the ocean, there is peace, there is consistency, there is balance. Overthinking is like watching the ocean's surface disruptive, loud, unsettled. But trust in God invites you below the surface, where you uncover that beneath the activity and all the unpredictability, there is stability, there is direction, there is peace. God has formed your life with profound intention. Stop dwelling on the shallow level of swirling thoughts and descend into deeper trust. The mind of man is remarkable, but it was never meant to bear the burden of what lies ahead. That burden belongs to God alone. Reflect on how narrow your sight is in contrast to His. You perceive the present, maybe a glimpse of what's next, but God sees far into the future. He recognizes the cascading effects of each decision. He knows where every journey ends. He comprehends every hidden detail you could never grasp. Overanalyzing is like attempting to complete a puzzle with just two pieces in your grasp, while God holds the full image already assembled. Why wear yourself out with two scattered pieces when the Creator who designed it all already knows how every piece interlocks? Let me offer you a renewed outlook. Every moment you fall into overanalyzing, you're sowing seeds of uncertainty into your own spirit. Those seeds bloom into fear, tension, indecision, and stagnation. But every moment you lean into faith, you're planting seeds of calm, bravery, resilience, and vision. Which garden are you nurturing within your life? A tangled thicket of doubt or a thriving meadow of belief? God has entrusted you with the capacity to decide what you nourish with your focus. Overanalyzing feeds the thorns. Faith nurtures the harvest. Some of you may believe that letting go of overthinking is the same as being reckless. No, dear friend, trusting in God does not equate to neglecting wisdom. It does not suggest avoiding preparation or ignoring responsibility. It means that once you've fulfilled your part, once you've taken the step placed before you, you surrender the results to God. Overthinking attempts to manage both the action and the outcome. But faith says, I will take this step and entrust the rest to God. Discernment strategizes. Overthinking obsesses. Discernment looks ahead with assurance. Overthinking looks ahead with dread. Discernment says, I'll fulfill my role and leave God to do His. Overthinking insists I must handle both or everything will fall apart. But the truth is, it will never fall apart when held by God's hands. Don't confuse a busy mind with a progressing soul. Just because your brain is active doesn't mean your journey is moving forward. Some of you are running mental marathons while remaining frozen in your actual life. God has not invited you to exist in cycles of fear. He has called you to journey down roads of destiny. When you release the grip of overthinking, you begin advancing. You open the space to hear God more distinctly, to step out with courage, to recognize opportunities with renewed clarity. There's a different perspective you need to grasp. Overthinking is a robber of gladness. You cannot truly enjoy today's gifts because your thoughts are trapped in tomorrow's uncertainties. You can't embrace present serenity because your mind keeps dragging you into the shadowlands of what if. God's present to you is now this breath, this instant, this sacred day. And yet overthinking blinds you to that present, constantly shoving your awareness into a future that hasn't arrived. But when you place your faith in God, you open today's gift. You recognize beauty in the simple. You encounter joy in the small moments. You savor the richness of calm that arises from trusting that God is managing what's beyond you. Another truth must be seen clearly. Overthinking enlarges problems that are minor and minimizes the magnificence of God. It puts your fears under a spotlight and hides God behind a wall. But faith reverses that view. It exalts God and reduces the problem. When you redirect your gaze from internal chaos and focus on God, what once felt insurmountable begins to seem manageable beneath His greatness. The obstacle that once seemed immovable begins to crumble before the one who shaped the mountains. The tempest that paralyzed you loses its strength when you recall who commands the seas and skies. Overthinking inflates your troubles. Faith enlarges your view of God. Let me ask you plainly, when has excessive thinking ever resolved your dilemma? When has worrying ever delivered a breakthrough? When has reviewing endless scenarios ever guaranteed the right solution? Not once. But when has God ever failed to uphold you? When has He failed to answer? When has He forsaken you? Never. You are still breathing, aren't you? You are still here, still standing, aren't you? And it's not because your intellect rescued you. It's because God supported you. It's because God led you. It's because God was already working on your behalf before you even recognized there was a need. Some of you right now are waiting for resolutions. You are yearning for guidance. You are exhausted from carrying the load of uncertainty. Let me speak straight to your heart. God already understands. God already has it written out. God already holds the response, the supply, the breakthrough. Stop tormenting yourself over what you cannot manage. Stop behaving as if the outcome depends on your skill to anticipate it. Let it go. Believe, yield, declare within yourself, I will not be ruled by my thoughts. I will be guided by the hand of God. And once you begin to live this way, you'll find yourself walking in strength you never realized you possessed. Fear will release its hold. Worry will loosen its grip. Doubt will cease to dominate your moments because truth will steady you. God is already taking care of it. He is not rushing. He is not startled. He is not perplexed. He is not unsure. He is constant, immovable, all-wise, and almighty. Your overanalyzing cannot improve His plan, but your trust can bring you into His peace. So I implore you, release the urge to control. Let go of the endless swirl of reasoning. Loosen the hold of fear. Step into the freedom born from relying on the God who is already working behind the scenes for your good. Stop replaying the issue. Stop magnifying your dread. Begin magnifying God. Begin replaying His goodness. Begin reminding yourself that His strength exceeds your intellect. Let your soul settle in this unwavering reality. God is already managing it. My friend, there's a reason the mind can be both your greatest ally and your greatest threat. When focused toward God, the mind becomes sharp, calm, and insightful. But when ruled by fear, it becomes unsettled, frantic, and self-destructive. Overanalyzing is not born from wisdom. It's born from fear disguised as caution. Fear whispers, think more, plan longer, control every possibility. Faith whispers, be still, trust God. He already holds the path. Which voice will you listen to? Grasp this truth. The more you overanalyze, the further you drift from the present, the very place where God's blessings flow. The present is where your endurance lies, where your choices matter, where your purpose unfolds. Yet overanalyzing drags you into a future you cannot command and traps you in a past you cannot alter. It's a thief that steals your today. And still, God dwells with you in this moment. He provides daily bread, not a lifetime store in a single day. He calls you to rely on Him now and again tomorrow and once more the day after. The strength of your existence isn't in knowing the full story. It's in trusting the author who holds the story. Let me offer you another view. Overanalyzing convinces you that you're safeguarding yourself. You believe that if you prepare for every possibility, you'll be secure. But in reality, overthinking creates the very panic it pretends to protect you from. It doesn't shield you, it drains you. It multiplies false worries until your soul feels worn down. But God is your real defender. God perceives the threats you can't detect, protects you from foes you don't even recognize, and delivers you from traps before you're aware they exist. What your anxious thoughts cannot guard, God has already protected. What you're overanalyzing cannot prevent, God has already secured. Consider the strength found in resting. Not merely the sleep of the body, but the stillness of the spirit. A soul that rests is not tossed by constant overanalyzing. A soul at rest is rooted in trust. It does not chase after explanations. It rests in the confidence that God knows every answer. It does not grasp for control. It surrenders to God's flawless authority. That kind of rest is far from idleness. It is actually the greatest form of courage. To rest in God is to declare, I don't need to see everything because I trust the one who sees it all. That kind of rest is not disturbed by fear because it stands on faith. Overanalyzing also blinds you to what's ahead. When your thoughts are filled with worry, you overlook the divine openings God places right before you. You stall, you second guess, you dissect every detail until the moment slips away. But faith helps you move when God gives the signal, even when the road isn't completely clear. Overanalyzing leaves you motionless at the starting point, while faith leads you across the finish. If you wait to understand every step, you'll remain stuck. But if you believe God, you'll take that first step before the full path unfolds, knowing He's already arranged it. Another insight you need to hold on to is this. Overanalyzing enlarges your flaws, but trusting reveals God's might. The more you dissect, the more you focus on your own gaps, and the smaller you begin to feel. But once you lift your eyes from your weakness to God's capability, the barriers start to break. You suddenly realize it was never about your capacity, but about His endless strength. Overanalyzing claims, I'm not capable. Faith responds, God is more than able. Overanalyzing argues, I can't handle this. Faith answers, God already has. There are seasons in life when God purposely lets you come to the end of your ability, not to hurt you, but to reveal that His strength starts when yours fades. Overanalyzing tries to make you believe that hitting your limit is failure. But in reality, that limit is the entrance to divine intervention. When you stop spinning everything in your mind, when you finally lay down the illusion that you're in charge, you make space for God to move. You step aside and let Him step in. I want you to imagine this: a child gripping a heavy burden with trembling arms, unwilling to release it, straining with all their strength, while the Father stands nearby with open arms, ready to carry it all. That's what overanalyzing looks like. You cling to the weight of what's next as if your frail hands can hold it, while God gently says, "Let me carry it." That child feels no ease until the burden is let go, and neither will you. Relief won't come from thinking harder. It comes from releasing it, from entrusting it to the God who is infinitely stronger than you. Overanalyzing is also a destroyer of peace in your relationships. How many arguments were sparked not by facts but by imagined stories? How many nights were lost to replaying what someone did or didn't say? How many connections were wounded by offenses that were never real? My friend, God calls you to dwell in truth, not in imagined fears. He invites you to lean into His wisdom, not the spirals of your anxious thoughts. Overanalyzing clouds your decisions, but God brings clarity. Overthinking fuels mistrust, but God gives discernment. Overthinking fosters panic, but God imparts calm. Let me remind you, trusting is not a passive gesture. Trust is intentional surrender.